Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CSC Sports Preview. I'm Ethan Stray, the student commentator for CSC Live. On this edition, we'll get you caught up with all the action that took place this past weekend for CSC athletics. First up, we'll recap the season openers for both the women's and men's basketball programs. And for the women's program, we'll get to know the new head coach in Travis Brewster. And the Eagles will pull away with the 27-19 victory over the Hard Rockers in this one and claim the Eagle Rock Trophy. You may have heard that line if you tuned into the football game this weekend, as the Eagles won their final football game of the season to reclaim the Eagle Rock Trophy. And then closing out the fall sports season as well was the Eagle volleyball program with a sweep over the New Mexico Highlands Cowgirls. The Eagles in the first round of our MAC tournament will take on the challenging Regis Rangers on the road in Denver. Then a check-in on the men's wrestling program as they return from a long trip to the West for a wrestling meet in San Francisco. This all ahead on the CSC Sports Preview. Chadron State athletes finished up a busy weekend of action on Friday and Saturday with CSC seeing wins from each team that was in action. Now, first up was the season opener for the women's basketball program at the Chicoine Center on Friday evening against the College of St. Mary out of Omaha, Nebraska. Now, head coach Travis Brewster, who we'll get to know in a moment, picked up his first win as the Eagles head coach this season. Now, we saw some new faces out on the court along with many familiar ones in the win over the Flames. Let's recap what we saw in the 88-64 victory for CSC. First off, the Eagles came out red hot on offense in the first quarter, with CSC scoring 27 points to open up their season. Now, with their shooting in the first quarter, they went 11 for 24, 45.8% from the field, and 3 for 8 beyond the arc. Now, Chadron would go into the half with a 46-29 lead over the opposition. Now, the Eagles would never look back when they came out of the halftime break, as they would score 20 points in the third quarter and 22 in the fourth and closing quarter, again winning 88-64. Now, the offensive leaders for Chadron State were Shea Powers, 19 points, 7 from the field, 5 from the charity stripe, with 9 total rebounds. Now, the star forward in Molly Cockburn was also present in that one with 13 points, 4 from the field, and 5 as well from the free throw line. Before we get any further into stats, let's hear from head coach Travis Brewster, who I caught up with earlier this week. First and foremost, welcome to Chadron and congratulations on the first win of the season. I want to open up first by having you talk about yourself and your coaching background.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the opportunity to be here. I'd like to thank Dr. Patterson and obviously Joel Smith for entrusting me with the opportunity. I guess a little bit about myself. I've been doing this almost 30 years now, and I didn't even want to get into coaching. My junior college coach thought it was a great idea. I was playing over in Europe, and he gave me a call and said that's what I was going to do, and here I am now. So I guess he was right in that aspect. Father of 3, and my wife Rebecca's a cardiac nurse. So I guess you look at it as opportunity to do things and work with young people is pretty special.
What led you to Chadron and coaching the women's program?
I looked at it as an opportunity of something I haven't done in my career, and that's from the selfish part of being able to start from the ground up, so to speak. I really firmly believe nowadays everybody wants to be a part of something that's already successful, and I really take pride in the opportunity to build and being able to work with young people. And in the interview process of meeting the team, the biggest thing that I noticed is they were eager to learn, and they wanted somebody that was honest with them about how they do things. That's just how I am. I'm very upfront, and some people use the word blunt, but I don't hide from who I am. I don't hide from how I do things, and it's kind of an old school mentality that's not accepted as much nowadays. But I realize that, and so I have to curve things a little bit. And for me to have that opportunity to be able to implement it, I was excited.
What are your overall impressions of the Chadron area and in the community?
Yeah, this is a very same-sized community that I went to junior college in. My wife's from a community this size. So for me, it's kind of a redo. Even my first coaching job, it was in a community this size. So it doesn't really bother me in the size of the community. I realize that we are the show in town, Chadron State, right? We're the largest employer in town, and then the hospital. So you look at that and you realize that part of something special. A lot of people look at it as a hindrance. I look at it as an opportunity to have young people learn and grow in a safe environment, and being able to also have a great family type of dynamic every day.
With the first 2 games in the books for the season, what are some of your goals for the team this season, and how do you achieve them?
Well, we got to learn to pass to each other. That's the first one, because we had 39 turnovers in the last game. But the bigger thing for me is being able to teach them the concepts that we're doing, so that we have a solid foundation in the program. And this group's starting to embrace that. And, the biggest thing is I want to make sure they understand that you're part of the foundation. You're not a part of the problem. And so we have to work on building that each and every day. And that's fundamentals a lot. It's boring as heck, but at the same time, it makes you better. And, if you watch the games of professionals, you'll see that they play a lot of fundamental basketball. They just add something to it. So my job is to be like the ketchup to the hot dog, right? That's my job. I'm just the ketchup to the hot dog. They're really the show. So I want people to understand that our team works hard and we hold ourselves accountable, and we don't tolerate bad behavior and bad attitudes, and we have a high work ethic. And I really believe once we do that, you'll see a big change.
How big is it to have returning players like Shea Powers and Kyra Tanabe in those leadership roles for the team?
Wish 2 of those. No, I'm just kidding. It's nice to have them back, but they're learning too. And, I think the bigger thing is building a complete team. You realize that your quote unquote more star players or veteran players that have done well, it takes some of the pressure off of them, and it allows them to even grow more as a person. And that's a big thing for me. Great people in general. They're just great people to be around. I'm excited to see them every day. And the other part about those 2 is they work hard, and it doesn't mean they don't make mistakes, but they work hard and they really want to see us grow as a team.
Lastly, looking ahead, you have your first 2 conference matchups coming up on the road after the home exhibition match against York University, and a travel to Laramie to take on the Cowgirls. Now, what do you feel are the biggest challenges for your team entering this stretch, especially being on the road for 4 consecutive games?
Yeah, that's why we had a little mini road trip down to Texas, so we could learn how to travel. That's part of it. Then, I'm a big believer in you can't learn how to do things if you haven't practiced them. And so now we know how to travel a little bit better. And obviously 4 games in a row is a little bit different. But we do get to come back and reset, which is nice. Everything else doesn't really matter. It's conference that counts, right? That's just how I look at it. And, for us, we have to put our best foot forward in those games. But, Wyoming's going to be a great game for our players to be a part of. A lot of them are from that area, so they get a chance to step on that floor and play. I'm very thankful for that. And, and with York, I think it's another good game to get out in front of our crowd and play on the floor. We had a tremendous crowd for our opening game. I was really thankful for that. But at the same time, we got to prepare ourselves for the conference play, because that's what matters the most.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, Coach, and good luck this season.
Well, appreciate it. You can have a great day.
Welcome back to the CSC Sports Preview show with your host, Ethan Stray, the student broadcaster for CSC Live. We just heard from the new women's basketball head coach, and we will now transition to the team stats and the matchup between the Chadron State Eagles and the College of St. Mary Flames. Now let's get you to the team stats in the ball game, as the Eagles from the field in this one would shoot a .447, so almost close to that 500 mark. Really good to see at the beginning of the season. And beyond the arc, about a 30%. So right on par in that category. And for the rebounds, 46 rebounds for Chadron State. Eagles did have 15 turnovers, but again, had 15 steals of their own. So lots of turnovers on the side of the Flames. 21 is accredited to the Flames, but lots of steals for Chadron in that one. Then after their win at Chicoine Center on Friday night, the women's team traveled to Laredo, Texas to take on the Texas A&M International Dust Devils. Now, Eagles would fall against the challenging Lone Star Conference opponent. Dust Devils would win 91-64 in that one. The Eagles, even though they fell in this one, would shoot better than they did on Friday evening. They would total 59% from the field, 36.5% beyond the arc, and 57% from the free throw line. Obviously, not where you want your free throws to be. You would like to see that percentage a little bit higher, but again, still at the beginning of the season. Now, the Chadron State women's basketball team will be back in action on Monday, November 20th at home, with tip-off set for 5:30 p.m. The CSC men's basketball program opened up their season with a 1-1 record against two Lone Star Conference opponents this weekend at the Chicoine Center. Now, two of the returners had a strong presence in the opener in the form of Bryce Latimer and Josh Robinson. First up for Latimer, he scored 24 points in the contest, 22 of the 24 coming from the field. His shooting percentage amounted up to a total of 61%. Now, as for Josh Robinson, he would have 20 from the field and 2 at the free throw line. Robinson would play all but 5 minutes in this one and move his field goal percentage to right around the 50% mark. Now, the Eagles would fall in a close battle on Friday night against Texas A&M International. They would fall 80-78. Let's take a look at team stats in this one for the Eagles. Comparatively to Texas A&M International, they were right on the mark, as the Eagles have a .540 field goal shooting percentage, and the Dust Devils would have just a little bit above them with a 55.4%, so a .554 in the field goal category. Beyond the arc, the Eagles beat out the Dust Devils with a 36.4% beyond the arc. Again, free throw shooting wasn't the greatest. I know Coach Shane Pabin would agree with me that that percentage would need to be a little bit higher to compete with some of the tough competition in the RMAC, as the Eagles would have a 54.5% free throw shooting night from the charity stripe. Rebound total, 33 for the Eagles, 18 turnovers, and 8 steals in total in that one. Again, Eagles falling 80-78 against the Dust Devils on Friday night. Then they flipped the script to Saturday, again playing another Lone Star Conference team in the Javelinas. And the Eagles would reach triple digits and win large over the Javelinas 109-70. And that one, Eagles field goal percentages look like this: 49.5% from the field, 40.6% beyond the arc, and then 84.2% at the free throw line. Impressively enough, Chadron State would find their way into the paint and score nearly half their points in this one, as they scored 46 to be exact in the ball game. Again, the Eagles pulled away with the 109-70 victory, and the Eagle men's basketball team will be back in action on the 21st, with tip-off being at 7 p.m. Ethan Stray, the current student broadcaster for CSC Live, with you, and you're watching the CSC Sports Preview. We just wrapped up the review for the two basketball programs and a brief look ahead at their next games. Now, CSC athletics weren't done yet, as fall sports provided more excitement to end their regular seasons this past weekend. We now start with the CSC football team, as they finished with a thriller on Saturday afternoon. As you heard at the top of the show, the Eagles pulled away with the 27-19 victory to reclaim the Eagle Rock Trophy. For Chadron, it is a great way to end the season, especially after the challenges they faced last season, as they will finish the 2023 season with a 5-6 record overall and 4-5 in the RMAC. Now, time to look at the recap of the performance from Saturday. It was a slow start for both teams, as each team would have drives that would stall out right around midfield. Now, with both teams being stood up on offense, it would make for a scoreless first quarter in that one. When the action returned to the field in the second quarter, fireworks were lit off. First points of the ball game went to the visiting Hard Rockers. The Hard Rockers' first points of the game came from a 22-yard field goal by Connor Taylor. Now, these points came off of a Chadron State turnover via a Mason Hamilton fumble from a strip sack of the South Dakota Mines defense. Then, after the Eagles' first offensive possession of the second quarter, the defense would come up big. Defensive tackle Kobe Whipple would rush the passer and end up with the ball in his hands for a 3-yard pick six, which would fire up the home crowd and the home sideline. This was the moment where I knew the Hard Rockers were in trouble, because the Eagles came out and they were hungry both on defense and on the offensive side of the ball. Now, a little later down the road, the Eagle offense got on the board with a Jaden Cox receiving touchdown. Now, Cox was nearly tripped up prior to the end zone by a Mines defender, but he managed to stay on his feet long enough to somersault into the end zone for a touchdown. Then later, the Eagles defense came out and senior linebacker Joey Guile snagged himself an interception as well to add to the defense's stellar playing in the first half. Hamilton would connect on the next play for a short touchdown pass to Tommy Thomas. Then just before the half, the Chadron offense would come out with the turnover bug and give the ball right to the Hard Rockers twice within a few minutes. Mishaps began as a fumble that would ultimately result in a punt for South Dakota Mines. Now, this isn't where the trouble stops for the Eagles, is the Eagles would muff the punt from the Hard Rockers, which was a rare special teams error that we haven't seen very much this season. Now, from the Hard Rockers, they would eventually put 6 on the board after a roughing the kicker penalty went against the Eagles earlier in the drive. It would eventually end up being a 21-16 score at the half. And then in the second half, not much action really occurred, but the Eagles would tack on a pair of field goals, one in each of the final 2 quarters of play. Now let's take a look at the team stats in that one. The Eagles' yardage was not a very high total, but they still came out with the victory, as you heard. 179 total yards, 122 through the air, 57 rushing yards. Now, School of Mines, South Dakota School of Mines, that is, totaled 230 yards in the contest, so beating the Eagles by a relatively good amount, and 157 of those came through the air, so really mainly that air attack against the Eagle defense. Now, looking at the penalty yardage, the Eagles had a lot of penalties called against them, 8 penalties to be exact, 84 yards in total, so still something that the Eagles need to work on as they go into the offseason, kind of clean up some of the playing. Is the last couple of games we've seen totals of penalties being around 8, and even sometimes in the double digits of 10 for almost close to an even 100 yards. Now, looking at the first downs in this one, the Eagles had 12, went 4 for 14 on third down. So looking over at Mines, they went 5 for 20. So not a lot of success on third down, as both teams had some really stellar defense in this one. Now, looking at fourth down conversions, one came up for South Dakota Mines. That was on the final drive of the game, which ended in the South Dakota Mines not being able to score. Time of possession, that was won by South Dakota Mines as well, 31 minutes and 12 seconds. Now, again, Eagles would again finish with a 5-6 record and 4-5 in RMAC play this season. Now let's get to the players of the game for the contest between South Dakota Mines and the Eagles. Quarterbacks used 2 of them to be exact for the Eagles. We saw Mason Hamilton, who would leave with an injury to his lower leg, 11 for 18, 97 yards in total, and 2 touchdowns on his stat line. The leading receiver for the Eagles, 2 of them would be Tommy Thomas, 4 receptions for 57 yards, and that touchdown you heard about a moment ago. Then Jaden Cox, 4 receptions for 34 yards, and a touchdown of his own as well. Now, Jake Marshall, the leading carrier for Chadron State, carried the ball 62 yards for an average 2.7 yards per carry. Now, on the defense, per usual, multiple standouts for Chadron State. We'll touch on 2 of them to wrap up the players of the game. Xavier Harrell and Tucker Peterson sat atop both, totaling 10 total tackles. Now, before we get you into the volleyball recap for the season, I'll bring you inside the game with the sights and sounds of the game against the New Mexico Highlands Cowgirls. It's all brought to you by the RMAC Network and CSC Live. Attack there by Morris, picked up by Kendall Kirkwood. And a swing from Greiman. She puts that one down. Avery Lacey will now come into the ball game and serve for Chadron State. And an overpass with a booming swing from Bella Adams. I guess thinking to the future real quick for the postseason, Greiman could get more kills there to add to her career total and get to 500 before she is done as a CSC player. A nice pancake there from Alexia Hurtado as Ward will send it over. Making breakfast on the Eagles side we are with that nice pancake dig by Alexia Hurtado. So Hendricks Montez will now be at the service line for the Cowgirls. Serve goes to Lacey, back set by Ward. A tip over by Callie Kirkwood, nearly gets down, and a block up front by Callie Kirkwood and Ayana Fujiyama. Point CSC. And Greiman, another kill off of the block of Morgan and the Cowgirls. And a service ace for Bella Adams. And boom goes the dynamite on that swing by Ayana Fujiyama. Set point number 1 for the Eagles in set number 2. Kendall Kirkwood will serve it. Serve goes to Jaylee Gonzalez. Now over on the Eagles side, swing from Hurtado, gets it off the block for a kill. And we're going to set 3 with the Eagles leading the match 2-0. 25-18 your score in set number 2. So, looking over at our online stats, that is the 13th service error between the two teams. 7 for Chadron State, 6 for New Mexico Highlands. Hendricks Montez received the serve. Swing came out of the hands of Jaylee Gonzalez. And Lacey, what a play! And the Eagles with the block up front, and the Chacoin Center is absolutely electrified after that one. Add that to the highlight reel for the Eagles this season. Chacoin Center on their feet. And Kirkwood service ace for Chadron State. And the Eagles sweep the Cowgirls 25-20. And that's the way you wrap things up at the Chacoin Center. Those were the sights and sounds of the game brought to us by the RMAC Network and CSC Live. The Eagles pulled away with a sweep to close out the regular season in the last game at home. They definitely left the Eagle fans with a good one to remember with all those stellar plays. By far, my two favorites in that collection of highlights are the Lacey dig and the Hurtado pancake dig, which again is my favorite commentary line of all time. Now, this win would secure their spot against the Regis Rangers, and that number 6 position is the Rangers were seated number 3 in the RMAC tournament. The win would improve the Eagles to a 15-11 record overall and an 8-6 finish in RMAC play. Now, Regis, at the time of the match on Saturday, held a 20-6 overall record with a 12-2 finish in the RMAC conference. Now, ironically, the 2003 Eagles team finished with a 9-10 regular season RMAC record, and they would advance to the conference playoffs in the 2003 season. Now, the previous season, 2002 season, that is, they had a 10-9 conference mark, but were not among the 8 qualifiers for the playoffs. Again, in the RMAC conference, the postseason tournament holds the top 8 teams in the standings, and 10-9 conference mark, you know, that's a very good accomplishment by the team. But that season, a lot of good conference play for the Eagles in that one. This year's CSC team is the first to have a winning conference record since that 2002 season, the 10-9 mark, as the Eagles again finished with an 8-6 RMAC play record. Now, the graduate senior duo of Hurtado and Greiman ran the show against the Cowgirls. there are 2 game leaders for Shadron State. Hurtado, her stat line goes like this. She had 10 kills, 4 blocks, and 3 digs, while her teammate, Riley Griman, she had 8 kills and 1 block. Now let's take a look at the team as a whole in this one. 41 total kills for Shadron State, 16 errors on their 100 attempts, 250 hitting percentage. And looking at the aces and blocks, 8 service aces for the Eagles and 10 total blocks in the contest. So pretty well-rounded performance by the Eagles to close out the regular season at home. Now, Tuesday night marked the first round of the RMAC tournament. Eagles would battle hard, but would be swept by the tricky Regis Rangers. Now, it ended the Eagles' outstanding and impressive season, again being the best season in nearly 2 decades. Now, Eagle fans are proud of this team regardless of the result and are looking to the bright future on the horizon for the Eagle volleyball program. Now, for those players leaving the team this season with graduation, Eagle Nation wishes you the best on your future endeavors and are really proud of your hard work on and off the court and throughout the wonderful community of Shadron. Now, here are the scores for the sets against the Regis Rangers. Again, that match happened on Tuesday night. Eagles would fall in sweep fashion, 25-13, 25-19, and 25-18 in the closing set 3. Now, the Eagle offense in this one would have a negative hitting percentage as the Ranger defense just set up a stone wall at the net. A lot of tall blockers I saw on the Regis Ranger roster, a lot of 6'5", 6'4", 6'2". So when you have those tall girls up at the front row of the net, you can really set up a stone wall defense, and the Rangers did just that to shut down the Eagles. Now, that gets us to the Player of the Game award for CSC, and this time it will go to Ayana Fujiyama, who had a monstrous game with all things considered. Fujiyama would finish the night with a total of 7 kills and 5 blocks in the contest. Now, shifting gears to the CSC men's wrestling program, they improved to 2-0 on the season from their trip to San Francisco. The Eagles would defeat San Francisco 40-3, winning 9 of the 10 weight classes on that trip. It was a big shock to everyone who follows the men's wrestling program, as Brett Hunter, the CSC men's wrestling coach, stated he anticipated a smaller margin of victory. When the Gators traveled to Shadron last season to take on the Eagles in a duel, the Gators would pull away with a pretty manageable win, 25-6, a nice margin for the Gators last season. Now, the Eagles had a handful of winners on the mat, scored regular decisions. That would be Brody Lamb, my apologies, won the 149-pound match. And then Eli Hinojosa was a 12-6 victor at the 197 weight class. And then Mason Watt bested his heavyweight rival 4-0 in his match. Now for the upcoming broadcast schedule for CSC Live. Coming up for CSC Athletics, again, women's basketball will take on York, 5:30 p.m. tip-off on Monday, November 20th. And then men's basketball the following night on the 21st. That's a Tuesday, and they play Bethany College out of Kansas. That'll be a 4 p.m. tip-off. All of that, again, will be provided to you by CSC Live and the RMAC Network. This has been the CSC Sports Preview with your host, Ethan Stray, and we'll catch up with you after the Thanksgiving break. Take care, everyone.